Hi, welcome to the Thereafter podcast. Thereafter is a production and media company based in Orange County, California. On this podcast, we interview business professionals, creatives, and community-based organizations. I'm Armin Bryant, and this is...
Hi, I'm Quentin Bryant.
And today we have a special guest for you.
This is like one of the most accomplished people I think I've ever met in real life. Other than like, I don't know, I shook the hand of the mayor of San Francisco before, but I don't know. This guy definitely tops him. I've been like, for the last day and a half, I've been going over this guy's bio and all his accomplishments, and I probably could spend the whole podcast just listing them. This guy is super accomplished. Second degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from the legendary Master Allan Goes. Strong heritage, world champion, multiple championships, multiple amazing feats across the world. It's really a pleasure to have you on here, man.
Thank you.
Excellent guy. I also just want to say, and you know, I have my bios are always different, but I just got to say, like, I gotten to talk to him on just a regular, hey, how you doing note, and then also see his accolades. You're a good man.
Thank you.
And I think that speaks more than any medal or trophy. This guy is a good man. And my definition of a good man is someone who very, very dangerous, capable man in perfect control. And we definitely need more people like you around.
Without further ado, welcome Jason Youseph.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here today.
It's super cool. I'm a little too. This guy's got me too pumped.
For us, if you could kind of walk us through the journey that started you in the martial arts and then specifically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
It actually, for me, it all comes back to high school. I went to Mission Viejo High School, and I was not the most liked kid. I had a lot of problems with bullies. I had my fair share of butt whoopings. Never really got along with a lot of people personally. I got teased for a lot of stuff. And to be honest with you, it was one of those things that I always wish I knew how to defend myself. I was always afraid of getting into a fight. And I got to a point in my life where I heard about, I knew about the UFC back then. I knew about jiu-jitsu. I knew some friends that trained back then, but it wasn't for me. I was kind of scared of it because it seemed a little too violent, but it seemed better than karate and it seemed better than taekwondo. But then, there was a day that came and I met this guy and his name's Greg, and he's a dear friend of mine now. Me and him didn't get along at first. Right. We kind of butted heads, but I thought he was really cool. And I thought everybody thought he was cool. And I wanted to be cool like him. So when he told everybody he trained MMA and did jiu-jitsu and all the stuff, and I was like, yeah, so do I. And, I wanted it for once. I was like, nobody here knows me. I'm going to just say it and see what happens.
Get some credit.
I want my credit, and so he's like, yeah. I was like, yeah. I was like, we should train sometime. I had no idea what I said. I didn't even know what I said. And I literally right there, I went and signed up at a local gym. Back then, this is almost 20 years ago. I was 20 years old. I went down to LA boxing and I just went in there and I signed up and I started training. And then I called him out. I was like, hey man, when are you going to show up? Like thinking I was tough, right? I've only been training for like a month. And so he shows up and he was, me and him immediately became like best buds. And we had just such a good time training together. And then it got to a point for me where it was my third month of training. And this is very, very fresh. Like I don't know anything. I didn't know how to box. I didn't know how to wrestle. Right. I'm still learning the basics of jiu-jitsu. The instructor there was like, hey, you should fight. And I was like, fight what? He's like, MMA. And I was like, dude, I just started. He's like, no, you'll be fine. And I was like, okay, well, I guess, and then I was like, no, I can't do this. And then he did exactly what I'm so used to is he started picking on me, calling me a bunch of bad words, right? Trying to antagonize me to get up and take the challenge.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And he goes, don't be such a,
Right.
a wussy,
Yeah.
for lack of better words.
Yeah.
And so he turns around and he tells everybody to start calling me out, telling me not, that I'm too scared and I'm a wuss and this and that and another. So, and I was like, fine, I'll do it. And I was like, the hell did I just do? I didn't even know what I did. And they give me a guy to fight who's been training for some years, and I have 3 months experience, and I have no idea. And he goes, Jason, he goes, listen, he goes, I want you to do this because there's something about you that I feel like you're going to do well. And I go, okay, you're the coach, I guess. Well, then I win, right? I go out, I win. I'm super stoked. And I looked at him, I get out, and I was like, hey, dude, can I do that again? He goes, yeah, of course. So then they give me another fight. This is MMA, so I didn't know anything about any of this stuff. I just know I show up, I put my gloves on, and I fight, and that was it.
So that was 3 months in.
3 months of training, and I was thrown right into the wolves' den.
Did you feel like did you guys do enough like sparring to where you felt like, okay, I know like at least what I'm going to try to do against this?
Kind of.
Okay.
So I had enough sparring to know that I hated every moment of sparring. My first day of sparring, I literally went outside and cried. I was like, I hate you guys.
Yeah.
This sucks. Like, I was mad. I was so mad. I hated it. And they beat the crap out of me,
Right.
But then there was a moment right there that I think everybody has to kind of understand. There's a moment that you will be put in front of fire and you have to decide whether you want to burn or be forged. And
Right.
so this moment where I knew I can give up like everybody else would, this moment I knew that I was just, it's so easy to quit. Like I think majority people will.
Mhm.
I think anytime somebody realizes that there's an easy way out, they'll take it.
Yeah.
Part of me says like, screw that, go the hard route, go back in there tomorrow and show them you got what it takes.
Right.
And I went back the next day and I kept training and I kept training and I kept training. To be honest with you, it wasn't too many more sessions of sparring before I got to the actual fight. Now, I wasn't really excited about it because it was painful. But by the time I got there, I felt confident enough that these guys beat the crap out of me all day. What is this guy going to do at
Right,
least? You know what I
right.
mean? It's not going to be that bad. And so, but I ended up winning. And then they throw me into another fight. I win. They throw me to another fight, which the guy told me straight up, hey, we're all meant to lose at some point. And I was like, that was the starting conversation to this fight. I was like, so you think I'm going to lose? He goes, no, Jason, the guy's just a really good wrestler and the guy's a really good, boxer. And okay, so I'm supposed to lose. Okay. Well, I didn't take that kindly.
Right.
I've been training 6 months. This guy's been training 6 years.
Right.
I took that as a challenge. And like I was telling you guys before, I do best when I am challenged. I do best when my back's on the wall, when the time is against me, when the opponent's bigger, better, or stronger, or faster. I will find that will and the way to win.
Right.
Because there's something in me that if you put me in a bad situation, I will perform. I will do better than the majority because I know how to stay calm under pressure. And it's something that I've been able to do majority of my life. I've never been in a bad situation and lost control. And I think that's what, something you said earlier, having the ability and being able to control that ability is everything. And
Yes.
to me, that's a lot of what I try to teach my students is have that ability to be able to turn that switch off and on. And I was able to do that, for my whole career. And then by the time I got through all these fights, and by the way, that guy, I beat him too. I triangle choked him. He picked me up and slammed me over the third rope into the mat, into the ring. And dude, that hurt. But it was satisfactory to win. Right. But I've been very blessed to continue that journey where I saw a lot of people drop off. And as I saw people drop, I got more motivated because I felt like the race was getting smaller.
Right.
And I was like, man, the race to that black belt was like, for me, was like, there's no way I can lose.
Yeah.
All these people dropped out. All these people stopped, or they plateaued, or they weren't getting better. And I was just excelling and excelling and excelling. And it got to the point finally for me where I go, now I got to take this up another level. So I started taking my training very seriously. I started boxing with one of the best boxers who lived here in Mission Viejo. He was one of the best boxers in the world. His name was Gennaro Hernandez. He was 42-2. His only 2 losses were De La Hoya and Mayweather.
Wow.
And so I was honored to learn from him and to train under him and to go train with him and his team. And I was very, very blessed by that. But between that and everything else I've done, leading up to the time when I decided that I was done with MMA, I go to jiu-jitsu, and realizing that I just had a lot of fun with jiu-jitsu, and jiu-jitsu was very up and coming compared to MMA. I took that path to jiu-jitsu very seriously, and I started as a blue belt. I started competing at every single tournament across this country that I can find. If there was a tournament, I was working, save my money, fly, travel, go, and compete. And I was going by myself a lot of times without a coach or an instructor, and I would just go. So for the majority of my career, up until when I got my black belt, was a lot of me just traveling this country alone, figuring it out, learning how the process goes, and just showing up and just competing against people from all over this world. And I've had an absolute blast doing it.
So I got two things. First, I want to talk about, it seems like all sports kind of teach you like skills, intangibles when it comes to discipline, and maybe like a philosophical approach to how to get up through obstacles in life. But it definitely seems like martial arts takes that to another level, because, we come from a background where we have family members. Our mother was like
black belt in karate.
Well, yeah,
she was number 1 in women's karate.
Very cool.
In sparring, at one point. So just the discipline that is applicable not only to the martial art itself, but also to life. But it also seems like from the story you've told thus far that you've had like some kind of understanding of discipline.
Yeah.
And so did that come from a sport? Was it just your parents?
Yeah. So it's two parts. One was my parents. My parents ran a very firm household. They didn't, as much as they didn't like play the old school, like go sit in timeout type thing. They ran a very firm household, and I put a lot of respect towards a lot of what they've given me in that, because if it wasn't for them and the structure that they've laid out in our house, then a lot of what I do I would not have today. But on top of that, it was also me playing music.
Gotcha.
So I grew up playing drums. My uncle was a drummer. My brother was a drummer. My other uncle was a drummer.
Nice.
One of my uncles played for the Gypsy Kings. So I grew up playing drums. I was in the drum line in high school, hence why I wasn't so cool or popular. And then I played in drum corps in college. And so being able to perform in front of audiences, feeling that same type of pressure of performance and being able to, be exactly what they need you to be. They need you to be a robot. That's exactly what it is. And so having to be able to follow those structures kind of put that with my fundamentals of growing up, of, how my parents ran their house. And I put that together and was able to have this little package, I guess you will, to
that's super interesting, because we have a couple friends who are drummers and did drumming throughout high school and more, and play in bands, and the training they went through. It's
I was messing around with a drum set and I just realized I was like, dude.
Well, I think a lot of people, what they do is they look at drums and they just go, oh, it sounds so cool if you go brrr, pow. And it's like, yes, sounds cool, looks cool, hard to do.
Right.
But the one thing I think we learn in this world from day one, walk, don't run, crawl, don't walk. Mm-hmm. And so you got to go slow. And so a lot of what I've learned in drumming is you got to be able to go slow. If you can play it slow, you can play it fast. If you can play it slow and technical, right? Then you're going to play it fast and technical.
Yes.
But if you can play, if you just try to take something that somebody teaches you, right? And you just try to immediately mimic it at the same speeds, you will fail. Yeah. Right. So you got to take it slow. You got to learn that skill. You got to harness that skill. And same thing, that same philosophy came over to jiu-jitsu. So when I'm teaching, I teach a technique in a way that I show how fluid the movement is. But then I turn around and I look at my students and I go, but I need you to break it down. I need you to go slow. Yeah. Because if you're not going slow, right? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Right.
If you're not going slow, then you're just your mental repetitions that you're going to be building, right? That muscle memory that you're building in your head is, yeah, you're gonna have mistakes built into your muscle memories,
Right.
and you will fail.
Yes.
So when push comes to shove and your body starts to seize up or fail on you and your muscle memory has to kick in, what's your muscle memory going to do? Bad technique.
Right.
So unless you can perform that at a high level, right, while under stress, then you know what your body's really going through. Because what people don't realize in jiu-jitsu, your body endures such a high level of stress for a very long period of time. It's not just a 6-minute round. It's a 1-hour class that sometimes we do 6-10-minute rounds.
Right.
So we're doing sparring for a straight hour.
Right.
But there's nobody in my school that I look at and go, this is a rest round here. Like, this is going to be fun. Every one of my students want to kill me. And I love that, because that's what I want them to do that to me. You know, I want that fire in them to be able to help them get better. But so and I think the different thing about jiu-jitsu that makes it very difficult, it's not just about the technique, and it's not about the strength, but it's learning how to do the technique with your strength. Because there's people that come in and they try to overpower me. Well, the overpowering somebody with technique is never going to work, because jiu-jitsu is kind of like a science, right? It's technique and leverage versus mass and strength.
Right.
And what wins every time is technique and leverage, right?
Yeah.
So the what do you call it? The headstones.
What, from the pyramids? Are you talking about the?
Not well. We can go to pyramids too,
Capstone,
but
they're in
they're in that circle.
Valhalla.
Yeah.
Stonehenge.
Stonehenge. Thank you.
Stonehenge.
Gosh, what a brain fart that was,
four
man.
people in a building, right?
Oh man. So that was the worst brain fart I ever had. It smelled really bad too.
No, it's all
So everybody wonders how they got that up. It wasn't
Right.
mass and strength. It's technique and leverage.
Yeah,
Technique and
technique.
Right?
Leverage, yeah.
Pyramids were built with technique and
Yeah,
leverage,
yeah.
because you can put 1 million people to lift all this weight. You can't. Nobody can do it. And so when you find out that technique and leverage was such a huge, valuable asset to becoming very good at a skill,
Right.
right? Weightlifting is a great example.
Yeah.
You can lift weights. Facts. Everybody can. But without the right technique, you will not be able to lift heavier weight.
Yeah.
And the heavier weight comes with strength, but it comes with a lot of technique.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because if you lift it improperly, you won't be able to pull it up.
Yeah.
And it's like when I tell people, I'm like picking up a sheet of plywood, right? It's 4x8.
Mhm.
Most people take 2 people to do it. I can take 2 sheets of plywood and pick it up by myself and hold it up no problem by myself. But there's a technique to holding it.
Right,
And
yes.
most people don't understand that. So there's a lot of things that take technique and understanding how to lift something and how to move something. And so learning all that is a very valuable thing. I think a lot of people don't take the time to appreciate.
Yeah.
And I think that's why jiu-jitsu is so amazing, because learning how to use somebody else's strength against them
Their
is,
momentum
is
and
oh
force.
yeah,
Yeah,
momentum,
that
strength,
bottom.
energy, everything. So it's like a guy who wants to overpower me, I'm like, you got about 30 seconds. You got about 30 seconds for your lactic acid kicks in, your body seizes up, and you're out of breath, and then I'm going to have my way with
It's
yeah.
over.
You're
Yeah.
cooked.
Yeah,
My new
literally.
favorite thing.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
the
we could say it.
the other question I wanted to ask is, you started at 20, which is maybe like some would consider late for a martial art, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And you mentioned that you were like traveling and competing. Like, what was the financial backing behind that part of it? And
Yeah.
like, how did, I'm just not familiar with
Yeah.
the process, especially as it gets more and more
Yeah.
serious and more competitive.
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was a lot of me financing everything myself. So I had a day job, worked at T-Mobile, 24-hour
Mhm.
fitness, just had odd jobs
Right.
here and there. And so I was making enough money to be able to fund all my flights, hotels, and then tournament fees.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, you're looking about, well, back then, maybe like, $300 between a tournament, hotel, and flight, not bad.
Right.
But then it's
That's
like
not
a
bad.
quick trip to Portland, a quick trip to Seattle, quick trip to Texas, Florida, you know, then it adds up. And then all of a sudden it's, you know, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. Now I can't go anywhere for a weekend for about $1,500.
Wow, yeah.
You know, and people think I'm joking. I'm like, tournaments, you know, $150 to $200 to register now. Flights are $400 almost everywhere. Hotels are $300 a day. And it's like, but then, you know, when you're younger, you don't care where you stay. You know, if somebody offered you a couch, I slept on it.
Right.
If somebody offered me to come crash with them, no problem. I wouldn't even say no. You know, I would take anywhere that would be, you know, if somebody said, hey, you can sleep in our gym, I'd slept in the gym.
Right.
But then when I got to the pro leagues and started fighting competing in the jiu-jitsu professional leagues, you know, they would pay for my flight, hotel. They would give me per diem, give me money to eat. And then while I'm out there, I'm doing seminars. And that way I was able to, you know, be able to make a living. And then, because jiu-jitsu is a hard living sometimes. Like it's, you know, it's not the glorious of jobs, right? But it's, you know, there's more about giving back and being a part of your community than anything. But all the financial stuff going up to where I am,
right,
it's been a huge investment.
Right.
I've spent probably close to, I mean, with all the tournaments I've done and all the traveling, I mean, I've spent probably maybe a couple $100,000.
Right.
You know,
right. I see.
I mean, in 1 year I did 25 tournaments.
Wow.
That is.
And that was all across the country. I mean, every other weekend I was somewhere else in the country.
Right.
But I did that for 5 straight years.
Wow.
For 5 straight years, when I got my black belt, I was doing 25 tournaments a year.
What was that experience like? I mean, because you were in your 20s.
That was in my late 20s.
So, I mean, some of it was probably fun, but did it feel disorienting as far as like, I mean, now you have a family and you're kind of settled.
Now it's hard to look back and go, I would do that again.
Right.
Because now I want to be home with my wife and my kids.
Right.
And I want to spend all the time I can with them. But I also I want my sons to see me and I want them to know that their dad was a warrior. I want them to see their dad as, you know, like my dad was fearless and, you know, and he was willing to fight anybody, anywhere, anytime, you know? And so, I want my kids to see that because I want them to appreciate the work I've done and everything that I've laid this groundwork for. And, you know, I was a part of the time frame of the curve of jiu-jitsu being more mainstream.
Right.
And so a lot of the work that, you know, people like myself and the people during my time competing, we set the stage for all the people making money now.
Right.
And so we went out, we competed for free. We paid to be the show pony and, you know, there's so many people out there that deserve credit that don't get it.
Right.
And, you know, and I feel like for me, it's been very valuable going through this, but I really, really want to be back at the top. Like I would love to be back at the top of it. But I also find family to be extremely important to me. Yeah. And so that's my number one priority. And so, but I have a very, very amazing wife, extremely blessed. And she is, I mean, everything in this world to me. And so, but she supports 110% of it. And she's like, hey, if you want to compete, I'm there. She's that's like, awesome. I'll bring baby. We'll come. We'll make it a weekend. I'm like, great, let's go. And so, she's been amazing to go with me everywhere. And so she knows what it's like. She sees me, you know, get up early in the morning, go to the gym, train, you know, eat good and, you know, and do what I got to do to prepare. And then she goes with me to the tournament. She's stressed out and she's not competing. She's like, but she sees the level of stress in the environment but she supports me. Right. And she backs me. And that's what gives me more fire. Right. You know what I mean?
Did you meet her like in the hustle and bustle of it all? Like when you were like,
this one's for another podcast. this one is this. Okay. So our love story goes back 60 years.
Whoa.
I'm 38 years old.
We're definitely going to have him back on. Yeah. We're going to get into the bottom of this.
So quick story on and how I'll go through this one really quick. So we were 15 years old when we met in church. Okay.
Oh, okay.
We are both Assyrians. And so Assyrians are the indigenous people of Iraq.
Mhm.
And so we met at a Christian Assyrian church in Irvine, and my aunt and her mom became best friends. So my aunt would have a big Christmas Eve party every year. So for 25 years, I've seen her every single year for the last 25 years, 24 years.
Oh.
Okay. Now, funny enough, when I say our love story goes back 60 years ago, my grandfather and her grandfather were best friends in Iran.
Whoa.
They worked at the same hospital together. They both left. Okay. My grandfather moved to Philadelphia. Her grandfather moved to California. Now, back then, they didn't have any way of contacting each other. Never spoke again. Then literally my grandmother moved to a town in Modesto, and she lived in an apartment around the corner in the same apartment complex as her grandfather, not even knowing they were living in the same place. And then,
That's wild.
then it gets better. So then my aunt goes 2-3 weeks before our wedding, hey, by the way, did you guys know your grandfathers were best friends?
That's crazy.
Somebody's telling me this 2 weeks before our wedding. Dude, I was bawling. I was like, this was like, to me, like a love story of love stories. So then I get teary eyed now,
Yeah.
No, it's beautiful.
but to me, it was everything. Cause I imagined marrying her when I was 15. I always wanted to marry her. I never knew how to talk to her. I always ask her out for coffee, dates, dinners, whatever. And she would just say she was busy. So she ran, and I eventually caught up, and she slowed down, and but it was really crazy to think that we were connected in lifetimes before.
Yeah.
And so in my wedding vows, I say to her that I've loved you in lifetimes before.
Oh.
And I don't think anybody in the, that was attending, nobody had any idea why I mean that. They think I'm
Right.
just being cliche,
Right.
but it's because we were connected from 2 generations ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's really amazing.
No,
So
that is
yeah.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
like divine.
I only
Yeah.
have one love story, and it's one tier less than yours. And it's fictional.
It's fictional.
And it's considered in I'm a nerd, so
It's
it's considered in the gaming world as the best love story ever written. This guy comes in here, and I already told him that he's one of the coolest people I've ever met. He's telling me he's got a love story better than the most upheld love story in fiction. Yeah. I'll name drop them. Final Fantasy VIII, and then Howl's Moving Castle. So I'm like, this guy's got both of them beat. Just coming out of left field. I also wanted to give you a quick Davidism. I feel like this is really good for your shout out. This is my oldest brother, wise guy.
I went to school with him, by the way.
So we got to throw the Davidism in there. And he told me this. I think he was just me and him, we banter back and forth a lot. But he doesn't know I really try to pay attention because he really drops a lot of wisdom. And he said, Quentin, one realistic step at a time until you're in an unrealistic place. And the reason why that came out to me is when you're talking about, you gotta crawl before you walk, you gotta walk before you run, right? And I think so many people, they have great, amazing dreams, but it only turns into visions when you take your approach.
I agree.
Especially when you start it from you going in, joining a gym, and starting day one.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk about the specifics of all the different competitions you've won, but if you could name maybe your top.
He's got,
Yeah.
I want
to say top, maybe your top 4 competitions that really meant a lot to you personally, and kind of talk about just the what were some of the most difficult obstacles in. In
I saw over
those.
25 on his. So I'm telling you guys, I'm not trying to gas him up. This guy, he's him. All right, don't play with me. Continue.
So I've won American Nationals 4 times. I've won the Pan American Championships. I've won a bunch of regional stuff. But overall, I would tell you that the one for me that there was a lot of meaning to was the Pan Americans. And I I went in there from after having an accident. I took some time off, and I was sidelined for several months, and I was like, well, I'll just take it up as this is going to be a learning experience, kind of like how some of my coaches used to say back in the day, and so I figured I'll just go out there and have fun and just not have a care in the world, and but my head was always in competitions on competition side, and so I was always mentally ready to compete and fight with anybody anywhere. But then that day came, I was literally sidelined for several months. And it was the week before, and I trained only for about 3 days.
Wow.
And so I didn't have any training prior to that for close to 6 months. And so I walked in and just had this thought in my head, just go in there and have some fun. And I literally just walked in and submitted every one of my opponents, made it to the finals, and submitted my finals opponent in 30 seconds.
Wow.
And I looked up, and my dad is up in the bleachers, and I could just see him. And I was just like, man, I did it. Like, it was like this most
That
like
was
relieving.
like,
Yeah.
so-
And it was like my first big one too, because
Yeah.
I was always the bridesmaid. I was never the bride. I was
Right.
always on the podium. I was never the winner.
Gotcha.
And I was always in second or third, and I was never winning. And then all of a sudden it was this day that it was just like, I had nothing to lose, I had everything to gain. And I took that moment and I was like, all right, I got to make this happen. I got to do this. Like, I won my first, and I was like, oh man, that was good. Man, we'll see. I see this next guy. I was like, damn, he's a big dude. I was like, all right, he looks mean. I was like, beat him. I was like, no way. Third guy, beat him. I was like, oh my God, I'm in the finals. Like, there's no way I'm in the finals. And then when I tell you that the guy in the finals had a conversation with him previously, and he mentioned something to me about, oh, if you he said something to me about like this is before we even started. He goes, if we end up seeing each other, because we knew we're both locals. And so he's like, if I see you, in the finals, he's like, I'm gonna do what I got to do to win. He's like, I'm not afraid to break the arm. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, when I caught his arm, I wasn't afraid to break it either. And so I caught his arm within the first 15 to 20 seconds. And then he was tapping really quickly. When I tell you that we went to the podium, I was trying to be very respectful and give him, take my hat off to him and everything. He wasn't happy. He wasn't happy. But it meant a lot to me, because, to be honest, like, that was a really divine moment for me to really find out what I was capable of, because I never was able to win anything. And then all of a sudden it went from that to winning everything. And then it was like, I was able to start pulling off some of the biggest victories over some of the best world champions. Over last year, I beat several world champions last year. I've had my fair share of fighters in the UFC that I've competed against. I don't know if are you guys fans of the UFC?
Yeah, no. I follow it.
I feel like we don't follow it enough. Like, we know when a big fight's happening.
Yeah.
And, like, then
So
we'll watch.
I've competed.
We used to follow it like back when I was in high school.
Oh,
when I was
okay.
senior.
So
like
I-
Chuck Liddell and all
Oh
that.
yeah,
Rampage,
yeah.
Brock Lesnar,
Yeah.
Silva. We watched all those.
Yeah.
fights.
And so I've trained with a lot of these guys. I've worked with a lot of these guys. I know a lot of them personally. I've competed personally against Brian Ortega.
Nice.
I beat him. Lorenz Larkin.
Okay.
And many, many, many more. And so, like, but these guys are, Brian Ortega, being more of a top profile guy now and more relevant. I was very, very blessed to have that match with him, and it went in my favor, obviously. And so I was very stoked. And so, it's the journey has been great, because I've been able to take a point where it's like all of a sudden everything kind of starts to shift, right? That whole paradigm starts to shift. And then all of a sudden it's like everything just kind of becomes in your playing field, and you can just do almost anything, and it just starts with a dream. Yeah. And you got to dream it, and you got to see it. And you got to go out there, and you got to kind of taste that reality. And so I've been really enjoying the fact that, like, all this is starting to go in my favor. And now, I took some time off in the last couple years. But came back to it and, back on the horse again. So, but I'm still out there competing. I'm still enjoying it. So,
and I think this is really important because you mentioned it's a key word. I don't know if you guys will have video playback. It's a key word of you mentioned at one point, I'm willing to fight anyone. I'm willing. I feel like your story is kind of like a perfect comic book story, but that willingness to allow yourself to be uncomfortable. I think I've really learned that. Like I always tell people this. I manage a sales store, so I have this conversation with a lot of people. But there's your comfortable zone, there's the uncomfortable zone, and then past the uncomfortable zone is what you want in life.
Yes.
And you have to be willing
Yeah.
to go through
That's
that
true.
uncomfortable zone.
True.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people out there, and I used to be okay with this phrase, but I think I don't know. I'm not that old, but I have an old soul. So the more I hear this, the more like old manny I get. Like, but this concept of protecting your peace. Okay, so you're gonna be comfortable your whole life, but you're not. You might get a security blanket, but you're not gonna get what you want out of life.
Correct.
And then you find a lot of people. They're like, I'm not feeling well today.
Yeah.
I feel sad.
Yep.
I feel depressed.
Yep.
But you're comfortable.
Yep.
But you don't know how to shrug it.
Yeah.
But to shrug it, you got to get uncomfortable.
Yes.
Right. And I feel like your willingness really opened those doors for you.
Yeah. And you're 100% correct. I think a lot of people don't realize that if you look at somebody who's successful in life, it's not because they won the lottery ticket.
Right.
It's not because they inherited mommy and daddy's money. And it's not because they, got lucky on a cool deal. It's because they got uncomfortable with the uncomfortable and they made that the normal.
Right.
And you got to do that. If
Yeah.
you want to be successful at anything, be uncomfortable, be extremely uncomfortable. You look at Navy SEALs, you look at Rangers and Green Berets, and you look at all the special forces operators in general, and their normal is extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so their norm becomes our extreme.
Right.
And so when you're able to take your body to that extreme and make that your new normal level of operation, then you start to realize what you're actually capable of doing. Because they say when you think you're operating at 100%, you're actually operating at 30.
Yeah.
Because you haven't fought for your life like
Right.
some people have.
Right.
And when you realize that you will do anything to survive, you have a whole lot more to give. When people think that like, hey, I'm done. I can't do anymore. No, you can. Oh, you got a whole lot more in you and you have no idea because
Right.
you have not been pushed to those limits. You ever seen those superhero movies where the guy gets pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed
Yeah.
and all of a sudden his superpower comes out?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now his superpower is exposed and he's like, oh man, like the new Ghostbuster, right? So the guy, he's like the I don't know, the flame god or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So he gets pushed to an extreme that now all of a sudden he has his capabilities of using fire. And now he can defeat the evil cold god from some weird dimension. Bad, but some people don't realize like you got to be pushed to
concept.
because what you're looking at is somebody who gets pushed to an extreme. And I always use this as an example. What do you think the fear of a Navy SEAL is? When they're going through training, the most common fear every Navy SEAL probably has.
It's drowning.
Drowning.
That's what I was gonna say.
And
That's
what do you
mine.
think?
That was my
A paratrooper. What do you think most of those fears are? Jumping out of a sky?
Yeah.
The chute
Yeah.
not opening.
But guess what? They're experts in it
Yeah.
Bad.
because they live in it.
Yeah.
They embedded themselves in it. It became them, right?
Yeah.
And so when you look at your fear and you learn how to unlock that fear,
Right.
it becomes your best asset. It becomes your most capable ability.
Yeah.
And so, but if you look at a Navy SEAL and you look at a Green Beret or a Ranger or a paratrooper, you look at any of these guys and you look at what their job is, it's pretty much their fears
Yes.
Right.
and they live in it.
Yeah.
Their uncomfortability
Yeah.
became their power.
We have a good friend of ours who is an Army Ranger, and
Nice.
Yeah, he told us about training and when he was first doing his jumps and how he felt and all
Oh,
that,
yeah.
and then it just became automatic.
Yeah.
Like,
Operate on that level.
Yeah.
It's just like normal.
yeah,
And it gives you a level of control you never had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's for the nerds. I know this guy went over you guys' head when you guys saw this. And the first Avengers movie, when they said, what's your secret? And he's like, don't you get it? I'm always angry. He put himself in that I'm almost going to lose control uncomfortable scenarios he used to avoid in all the other movies, to the point where until later on in the films, he had complete control of transforming to Hulk or not. So let that sink in.
Yeah.
It's like
and,
there's
and,
some-
and I feel
some
like
Avengers game.
I truly feel like when people understand that living in an extreme environment will forge you into something, I mean, literally it's exactly how a sword is made, right?
Right,
You
right.
forge it into that.
Yeah.
And so you have to beat on it. You have to burn it. You have to beat on it again and burn it again. You put it back in the fire. You put
Right.
it in the cold water. You put it back in the fire. You beat it again. And you keep getting this repetition into the
Yeah.
point where now you're like hardened steel.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. Because if you take a guy who just gets out of SEAL teams, right, and he comes to civilian life, he will probably lose his mind because he'll be so bored. He's not jumping out of planes, shooting bad guys, diving into cold waters, doing extreme things.
Yeah.
What do you think a lot of them do when they get out? They go to jiu-jitsu,
Oh.
because this is one of the closest things that you can come across that is an extreme level of,
Apply that pressure.
yeah,
You get
it's
the pressure, the feeling back.
yeah, you get that feeling back in you that you're kind of following that same type of brotherhood lifestyle, that
Right.
extreme level of duress that you're maintaining. And the reason why I speak of this is it's because I have friends that are SEALs. I have friends that are Rangers and Green Berets, and they explain why they've all come to jiu-jitsu, because it's one of the closest relative things that they can come across that brings them back to that same level.
They get that
And
spark.
so, yeah, they get that feeling back in them. And so, and then it's another set of accomplishments towards their side. Right. And so, but there are so many people that come to jiu-jitsu and they quit because they don't know how to live in that environment.
Right.
Because if me being 175 pounds, if I take you and you're bigger than me
Mhm.
and I put you on the ground and I don't let you up and I literally take your breath away,
Right.
you will never, ever probably want to talk to me again.
Right.
Right.
You'll probably never want to be my friend. You're probably going to hate me.
Yeah.
Right. But when I do that to you, you will never feel so vulnerable in your entire life. But on the flip side of that, everybody that comes to the gym, they appreciate what that means.
Right.
They appreciate how that feels, and they appreciate what that will do to them. They say take ice baths because you will learn how to endure high levels of stress,
Mhm.
and that's going to help you mentally, right?
Right.
Same thing with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do in this world on a daily basis that will put you through such a high level of stress, day in and day out, minute after minute, hour after hour. You will literally feel like every single day somebody's trying to kill you
Mhm.
at 100%, and then turn around and you are now trying to kill that person.
Right.
So it's a fight for your life every day.
Yeah. You're like,
And
I'm
so-
battling.
Yeah. And so that to me, I've always kind of seen that. And these are some of the benefits that I see that jiu-jitsu has to offer. And that's what's kind of really fun. It's like you start to, the people that are around you are people that you're
Right.
willing to I'm willing to walk down any back alley with any of my guys.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You know they've been through it.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
not going to run from a fight.
Right.
They're not,
Right.
So
That's so cool.
I actually I have a few more questions, but I want to be conscious of time because
Sure.
we're running a little over now.
We're gonna have to have you back for sure.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
definitely going to have you back. I'll shelve some of those questions, and I want you to talk about just briefly talk about the school. And we talked a little bit about partnership with the police force and things of that nature.
Mhm.
So if you could go into that a little bit.
yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, we'll go from there.
Sure. So we've been around 9 years, and we're doing really good. Gym's amazing. Students are amazing. Everybody's a blessing to have there. And I mean, I treat them all like family. I have them over at my house. We all get along very well. So it's a great environment. It's a very family friendly environment, to be honest. I would say it's like a dysfunctional family that can fight and still love each other. It's great.
That's
And
great.
so, I work very closely with a lot of law enforcement officers and military personnel. I've been very blessed to work with different departments from Tustin PD, Orange County Sheriffs, Anaheim, Santa Ana, and many more departments. But I spend a lot of time working with them on a lot of arrest control tactics. I try to help some of the guys that I know personally that are on, they're beat cops and, they have a lot of engagements with threats. And so I try to show them a lot of things that would be more favorable to them versus basic jiu-jitsu stuff. And so a little bit more hand-to-hand stuff, a little bit more, tactical stuff. And so I enjoy it a ton. But my goal, my vision is to create better officers through jiu-jitsu, because some of the people that we see out there and some of the things we see out there in these videos, it's horrifying to watch. And so my dream is to be able to give back. And so there's a lot of people that I've given countless hours of, my private time to work one-on-one with them and to help them and to, make sure they are safe out there, because if they're not safe, we're not safe.
Right.
If they're not trained, we have a problem, because it's much harder to become a fireman than it is to be a police officer. You want to be a police officer, you got a heartbeat and, decent credit, you're in. You want to be a fireman, you got to be a paramedic, you got to go to EMT school, you got to go to college, you got to do this, then you got to go through, their entire academy training, then you got to get selected to a team. And it's like,
Firehouse. My best bud actually did that. Shout out to you. Love you, Adam. You're gonna love that.
So it's very hard to be a fireman, but it's very easy to be a police officer. But the training is not nearly as strong for hand-to-hand or CQB and or jiu-jitsu, because a lot of the engagements you have in law enforcement are hand-to-hand, and you're going to take the suspect to the ground and you're going to apply pressure in some way or somehow. And it's like, but your life is on the line, and this person does not want to go to jail. So you have to, in the eyes of the people, you have to do it nicely.
Right.
But it's a very, very hard pill to swallow to say, hey, like I know a lot of great people, and I know a lot of great officers, and they are the people you want out there. But then we see these videos and then we just assume naturally they're with them. It's like, no, that's not true. That's not true. That's the 1 out of 1,000, but it's just like us as people. There's bad people out there in this world. There's bad jiu-jitsu school owners that have done bad things to their students, but that's not me.
Right.
But should I be reprimanded for what they've done? No. And every cop hates a bad cop.
Yeah.
Every good cop hates a bad cop.
Yeah.
So I really want to make better versions of themselves, better versions, so that they can see that their teammates or their fellow officers will look at them and go, man, that I want to be like that guy. So then they come to jiu-jitsu. But now you're starting to see with all these different organizations like Adopt a Cop that we've partnered up with and some of these other places, that they're able to help some of these officers afford to go to jiu-jitsu, because the Orange County Sheriff's actually reimburses the officers to come and train.
Nice.
But Tustin PD doesn't, or Santa Ana doesn't, or so some of these.
And let me just, if I might just add in to kind of bring a little bit more context to it. The idea is to make them a physical force to be reckoned with, so they feel that confidence. So if they get into a sticky situation, they feel confidently taking an opponent down, without having to draw deadly force upon them.
Correct. So there's a escalation, their use of force escalation process. It typically states it's like, if this person is being kind of like combative, doesn't mean I can pull a taser and deploy it and shoot this guy with a taser. Doesn't mean I can pull my gun out and shoot him. It doesn't mean just because he's being combative.
Right.
I got to be able to match that escalation. If this guy pulls a weapon, I have the right to defend myself with my weapon. If this guy does not have a weapon and I use my gun, we have a problem on our hands. So it's these are things that they have to be extremely comfortable with, and then also justify what they're doing. So for instance, you're at a grocery store and all of a sudden you look over and you see this guy being combative, cops get called. Now this guy is, probably got a, something in his hands, but it's not a threatable object, right? It's not like, it's his cell phone. But now this officer just grabs his taser and he points it at him. Is that officer in the right? It's hard to say, because we don't know what this guy's doing or what he's going to do. But then at the same time, I feel like that officer can make an engagement. If he's confident enough in his abilities, he can make that engagement without that taser, knowing this guy is unarmed. And if he feels like the guy is armed or makes threats that he is armed, then you're your distance and management of distance control is going to be huge here.
Right.
So I think a lot of people don't realize that is like, there's so many factors that go into this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I have students that literally send me videos and they go, "Hey, Jason, remember that technique you showed me about this?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Check this video out." And I was like, it's like seeing your son, like, you know, for the first time, like at school, like gets up and sings in front of everybody. Like, I'm so proud. Like it was like a dad moment for me. And it's like,
that's what we're talking
you
about.
did it good.
Yeah.
You were really nice to that guy.
I have a joke about, character develop. I don't agree with this. This is whatever. I don't agree with the zero tolerance, no fighting in school. I think it's made so bullies get more.
They get
more,
yeah.
And the people that
I say
are
fight
supposed
back.
to learn how to fight back to build character never get to fight back because they're worried about the consequences of their parents and schools.
Bullies are like balloons. You pop them, they go away.
I say a proper throat punch will be the best character development you could ever give to someone.
Oh yeah.
And you guys can. Let's talk about it. I'm open to discourse.
Yeah.
But the prove me wrong. Little
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. 100%.
Distinguished gentlemen.
As they start talking, just pow, just, you know, like, see, you're going to think twice before you come back here and talk like that.
It teaches people respect.
It does.
People don't understand that anymore. You're like, oh, no, that's why your kid doesn't listen to you. But, sorry. I gotta get it out sometimes.
Hugh chose violence today. That's that. He woke up.
I think it's good. I think we're on the right topic to talk about it. Right?
So this is the only time I can bring this up. They're like, this is out of pocket. Throat punch. But no, I really believe that like it teaches character and then also teaches the bully boundaries. If I go this far, my nose might get broken. Yeah. Maybe I'm not going to be a jerk this time.
Yeah,
that's more of like the way.
Yeah.
The world we grew up in.
That's
maybe the world.
More old
well,
school.
our time when we grew up was way different than these kids.
It's completely different. I have no idea.
I can't even. No,
stuff on the internet.
No,
I tell my kids.
Yeah, and I tell my kids in school, I was like, "Hey guys, like if you guys get into a fight in school, like do not be afraid to tell the teacher, principal that I'm coming down to the school. I will absolutely. You get into a fight, and they do something. If the teacher says something to you, you tell them I'm on the way." Right. Like, because I will back you up. Yeah. I will tell them that I told you to do it. And if they got a problem with me, they can take it up with me. Yeah. Why? Because I'm not going to have you get your ass kicked like I got mine.
Right.
And I was like, I wish I knew how to defend myself like half you guys do. I was like, and maybe a couple more you guys are going to kick my ass. Yeah. But more importantly, I don't want my kids going to school, whether it's my personal kids or my students. Yeah. I don't want them going to school in fear going, oh, I'm learning all this stuff, but I can't defend myself. So we're teaching our kids to it's okay to be bullied and okay to be beat up, but you can't fight back. Yeah. You're literally right. Yeah. Like, so a guy can kick your ass, yet you can't fight back. And if you do, you're in trouble. So you're saying that some guy can come in my house and rob me and I got to let him do it?
That's exactly what you're saying. It's ridiculous.
Not where I live. Not where I live.
Our mom would say, never start it, just finish it and we'll take care of it after.
That's it. But to me, it's like you bring the fight to me, I'm going to finish it 100%. You absolutely better believe I will defend my family, my life, and everything. I will put my life on the line all day long.
Right.
I fight like when I'm competing, I fight like my life's on the line. Right. I don't fight like, oh, this is really fun. Like I'm not competing like that. I'm competing with the mindset as like, I'm there to live. Like I'm going home. Like you are not. Like that's how I compete.
The macro of what I'm talking about with the zero tolerance and with fighting in schools, I'm just going to speak as a man. They're not as capable. Mm-hmm. They're never learning to be capable, and you're stealing it from them. And then when they get older and they're put in situations, and you're making fun of them because they're not capable, you did it to them.
So you created the environment that we have today. Men. Yeah,
there's a dynamic with guys. I was explaining this to a woman one time. I was like, there's definitely a dynamic with guys. Like when you meet a guy, and it's not even like negative, but you do size him up. You size him up. You're like, okay. You're just like,
hey, hold on. I gotta say this. Hold on. So I get sized up. Almost everybody that walks into my building, they walk in, they go, You're the instructor? Yeah, I'm the instructor. And they're like, ain't no way. I'm like, way. Okay, true story. Just had this happen. Guy walks in my gym, 6'4", 275. Just walked in my gym like last week.
Big boy.
And he comes in and he tells me, I was like, oh, so what brings you here? He goes, dude, I can't even make this up, dude. He just goes, oh, I came here to kick your ass. And I go, okay, maybe he thinks we're friends.
Yeah.
Cool. Dude, I swear from my lips to his ears, man, this dude comes out. He wrestled in high school, college, played football, big, strong guy.
Yeah.
Very, had some knowledge, but did enough just to kind of avoid me.
Right.
And, in my head, I'm going like, dude, you came in here, you looked at me like I was smaller and that you were going to teach me something. And I was like, that's not happening here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but this happens to me everywhere, dude. I go to a restaurant, I go to a bar, I go to a club, I go anywhere. People just look at me and are just like, little guy. Like, I may look little, but I will feel like 1,000 pounds when I grab you.
Come on, get this throat punch development.
Yeah. But I tell everybody, I'm like, always don't ever look at the biggest, scariest guy in the room because they're usually the fluff.
Yeah.
You know? One of my students just recently went through this. He's a very, very good competitor. His name's Peter. Great guy. Love him to death. He literally shows up to a tournament. He looked up his bracket and all the guys in his division, and he sees this guy. He's got to be like 6'3", 230, 240, just muscles. When I tell you from top of his head to his tip of the toes, he was covered in tattoos and had some like could be prison white power looking tattoos on him. Scary looking guy. Don't get me wrong. And he just looks at me. He goes, I was like, what? He goes, I was like, you nervous? He goes, a little. And I was like, why? He goes, my wife said it was okay if I tap. And I go, get out. No, hold on. I was like, you should look at that man right now. You should look at that man right now. And by the way, for the lack of better words here, I'm going to choose to yield my vocabulary to a better level. So I told him, I was like, you get your ass over there. I was like, you should look at this moment as a very exciting moment.
Yeah.
You need to take that opportunity and you need to let him know who you are.
Right.
Because that guy is looking at you thinking you're looking at him, and you're intimidated and you're scared and you're nervous, and that's what he wants. And that's why he's got those tattoos.
Right.
Because I've never come across a man with tattoos like that can ever whoop my ass. It'll never happen because all those guys have those tattoos to intimidate you because you look at them and go, man, that guy's intimidating. He got his whole throat tatted up. Like, great, good for him. I'm still whoop his ass because I don't have any tattoos, and that's what makes me more dangerous. But you should look at me. Yeah, and you want to see the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the world? They're the nerdiest looking guys in the world. They're the skinniest, nerdiest like dweebs you've ever seen. They're autistic. They're people that you wouldn't even fathom, and they will devour you. They will literally, it's like being,
deconstruct you.
I mean, dude, it would feel like with some of these guys, it would feel like sitting in a bucket of acid. You just melt. Like you wouldn't even know what to do. And so these guys are just so unbelievably capable, but people don't realize this is the level of what somebody can actually do to you. And they're only 130, 40 pounds.
Right.
Yet you look at them like they're a nerd. There's a guy, Mikey Musumeci. Look him up. He's very vocal about being bullied and how he hates bullies and he's fighting back against bullies. And I mean, you listen to him and you're just like, I beat this guy up. Like, no way. No way. He's amazing. He's amazing. He's world renowned known right now. He's the best American in jiu-jitsu, pound for pound, in my opinion.
Nice.
But he's absolutely unbelievably technical. And he's just phenomenal. So, and he's a great person, more importantly. Extremely respectful, great to everybody, very kind, never talks trash. But we look at people like him and we think he's a nerd, and we look at him, we think he's a dweeb, and we look at him and it's like, but dude, I mean, he is beyond levels of this world of jiu-jitsu. Like he's godly like when you roll with him. But there's that's what I think people don't realize. They look at these big intimidating guys, and I told them, I said, get your ass in there. And I was like, and again, I'm holding back a lot of vocabulary here. I was like, you get excited about this and you go over there and you make this your opportunity now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And again, a lot of vocabulary has changed here. He literally was so scared. And I was like, here's the game plan. You're going to tire him out for the first minute, circle him around, keep him on his feet, make him come to you. and make his adrenaline wear off a little. And as it does, take your shot, pick him up, put him on his ass. And he does so. Puts him down, passes guard, and just took it to him. Well, when this guy gets up off the mat and he realizes, my student Peter realizes he had now won, he comes back with this big smile. He's like, hey, coach, you were kind of right.
Yeah.
But then now he doesn't fear it.
Yeah.
Right.
Now he's starting to live in that uncomfortable zone
Yeah.
where he's like, that uncomfortableness, I can be there again.
Yeah.
And now he knows what it's like. And now he wants to go back. And now he knows, now he's coming up to me. He's like, now he's no longer afraid to give me the kitchen sink when we train, you know? And it's like, I want that from him.
Yeah.
And so I love that. I love moments like that, because I think when people look at somebody and they go, oh, dude, that guy's intimidating. He's amazing. Have you ever fought a world champion at something? That's hard.
Yeah.
I don't care how many tattoos you got. I don't care what your prison record says.
Right.
Fight somebody who's a world champion
Anything.
at anything. Well, I mean, hold on. Now, if I was going to fight a ribbon twirler in the Olympics,
Well, I'm saying,
I'd beat the crap out of her.
I'm saying if
Any
you're,
martial art.
if you're if you're
No.
matching someone at their craft, so like
Yeah.
you go up to a chess world champion,
Yeah.
that guy's 7 to 5
Yeah.
to 7 moves, he somehow
He'll beat
deleted
in
you.
like
Yeah,
3 minutes
yeah.
And you're
or
like,
something
I didn't even know you
I-
could go that.
Ta-
What?
Take anything to the extremes, right? You go up against an Olympian in
Yeah.
wrestling, going up
Right.
against the Olympian in water polo, go up
Right.
against the
Michael Phelps, Usain Bolt.
yeah, you go up against any of these guys, they're going to devour you. You play high school football, go play in the NFL.
Yeah.
I got some friends in the NFL. Let me tell you something. Those dudes are monsters. Okay,
LeBron
And-
James dunks on you. It's like,
dude, they're
Deleted.
extreme levels, man. They're extreme levels. So your tattoos don't mean nothing. And so, and your prison record, when people tell me like, oh, I did this, and it's like, good for you. That don't work here. And
Yeah,
it's like,
it's
unless you
like
can,
a-
unless you could shape a spoon and, or a spork, and you can make a knife and get me real quick while we're rolling, that's about all the opportunity you're going to get. Because if people always talk about like hand to hand fighting, etc. And like, I come across this a lot. Like I'm very, very, I have a CCW license. I carry every day, everywhere. But I tell people all the time, they go, when we have these conversations about CCW, people then tell me, they go, oh, I also have my CCW. I'm like, oh, are you carrying right now? They go, no. I was like, so if we were to be in an engagement, who do you think is going to win? And then they go, oh, they start to think. I'm like, okay, so you're not carrying, but yet you're telling me that you have your license. And then, because a conversation came up one day where this guy found out I did jiu-jitsu, and he goes, well, it's a good thing I don't need to do jiu-jitsu because I carry a gun. I go, oh, are you carrying right now? And he goes, no. And I was like, so you're dead. You're dead. You're literally dead. You just told me you're not carrying. You just gave me the opportunity to kill you. So it's like, so if you tell me you carry or you have your CCW and you're not carrying, and then you want to tell me that you found out I do jiu-jitsu, because people say this all the time,
Right.
like, oh, I don't do jiu-jitsu. I do gun jitsu or something stupid.
Right.
People make these dumb jokes. And it's like, great. You have a gun on you? Nope. You're dead. How are you going to fight back? What's
Right.
in your in your
your
arsenal?
wheelhouse, right.
What do you
Right.
have on your belt
Right.
on you that's going to
Yeah.
you're going to survive, because you
Yeah.
won't. And I promise you, I'm not a jiu-jitsu practitioner that's going to like sit on my butt and do what we talk about as like pulling guard or like something cheesy. I'm going to hit you with a whole lot of force, and I'm going to be very aggressive with you, because my goal, my objective every time I roll is I want to take the soul out of you.
Right.
I want like Shang Tsung, right? Like
Yeah.
I want to take your soul,
Shang Tsung.
Like I want to take your soul. I want
It's a
you to
Mortal Kombat
physically
reference.
feel the pressure of not being able to breathe. And I want you to endure that duress for a long period of time. And I want to break you. I want to
Right.
make you quit. I want to forge you in a moment that I'm either going to make you leave and never come back, or you're going to come back for more and you're going to be better because of it. But that's how my head thinks, right? But do I really want to hurt you? No. But can I take you to deep waters? And that's what it feels like.
I mean, you do hear a lot of,
Yeah.
not just you. I mean, you're talking about it now, but you hear a lot of jiu-jitsu guys talk about like taking people to that edge.
Yeah.
taking people to
Yeah.
moment
That deep
where-
water feeling of like feeling like you're drowning. That's what
Yeah.
jujitsu feels like.
Right.
Feels like you're truly drowning and you cannot get out of the water. And it is hard, because if somebody doesn't want to let you up and you want out and you just go tap, tap, and they don't let you up, you have never panicked like you've ever before.
Where's fear?
It's yeah. So it's
You crying?
Yeah. Yeah. People don't realize that's a very bad feeling. And it's
Life
like,
gets real.
yeah. And I wish more people would, stop being keyboard warriors and, stop making these comments on Facebook that they wouldn't make in person. Like, say it to my face,
Right.
Yeah,
say it to my
that's
face,
true.
and let's have it out. Yeah.
That's
I had a guy try to engage with me on Facebook before, and then I saw him in person, and I just told him, I was like, hey man, here's your opportunity.
Come on.
Yeah.
This is it.
And he did nothing about it. And I was like, that's what I thought. Like, and I just walked away.
And that's what I was saying. One last time on it. You catch the cyberbully, right?
Throw punch.
Cyberbully's been and these cyberbullies are, a good amount of like teenage suicide, right? So it's not like we're just
that's true.
I'm not just doing this for me and my like crazy fight people. You catch these people that are literally murdering people with their words, right? And cyberbullying. And we've seen it across the country for years, right? They finally get caught, and the person who's been bullied doesn't have the chance to actually beat the crap out of this guy because he's going to get kicked out of the school system he's in. He's going to put their parents under duress. And so they keep it tucked inside, and you wonder why all these people have all this depression and like this feeling of worthlessness because they never got to fight back. And I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm just saying we're not working in the right direction to get things fixed.
Yeah.
And we can have conversations about it, but give me some. If you're using today's world is one of zero tolerance of fighting in school, and we have some of the most like mental health issues, especially for men, women too. Women are really big bullies, especially online. So there's girls out there that are hurting inside, and they're big.
Yeah.
They
could be
man.
Yeah. Oh, women are ruthless.
I'm lucky I have a
ruthless.
sister that will
They're-
whoop your for me.
I would like to see, more women do jujitsu, obviously, but the women that are in there, dude, I'm telling you right now, I know women that will take you and make you feel like you're a child.
Oh yeah.
You will never feel so helpless by a woman, and they do
The
jujitsu.
skills.
It's a skill. Yeah, it's 100%. And
We
it's
know.
like,
I mean,
that
just from our mom growing up.
Oh,
in
yeah, my
the
mom-
martial arts.
Okay,
she
so-
gave us that. Like,
I'm not gonna like date age range my mom, but just so you guys know, when I was younger, I'm the fifth son. She was in her early 40s, and I walked outside, and her and her best friends are doing butterfly kicks in the backyard, flipping over. It looked like Mortal Kombat in real life, and that's all I could see. And I was like, I'm going back.
So
inside.
You're like, I'm gonna listen to whatever she says. She says,
dude.
eat that. I'm
Yeah.
eating it.
So we're
I've seen
a group of guys, but we grew up knowing how strong a woman can be.
My
Yes.
mom, she's a joy.
Hey, so we kept you longer than we
All
intended.
good.
So I would love, first of all, for you to say the name of your gym, location, and we'll probably have your information like in the description. And then if you could just kind of sum up your journey in martial arts in one word. I know that's kind of difficult, but it's
word or phrase.
We've been doing words mostly.
We did one. Yeah. One person got away with more.
Well, again, my name's Jason Youseph. I'm the owner and head instructor at Carlson Gracie Irvine, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We're in Irvine, California. And I would sum up my career in jiu-jitsu with perseverance. I think perseverance is not just what it takes to kind of get you through, but it's the willingness to not give up. But I think that's how I would sum it up, because to be honest with you, it's like, if you don't have that in you, I mean, you could take any word and make it amazing if you know how to dissect that word. But there's something about perseverance that if you have that in you and you have other good character traits, it'll take you extremely far. And so yeah, that I feel like that's my best shot at the one word.
That was perfect.
Thank you for coming through, Jason. We're definitely going to have you come back at some point.
I would love to.
So much more to talk about.
This was a
Absolute honor.
round two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's an absolute honor.
Absolutely.